All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here today for the Arizona School Public Relations Association quarterly meeting. As always, we want to thank Stephanie and Michelle for putting things together for content today, but we need to do a special shout out to Matt Stamp. Matt is the one that really coordinated and made a lot of stuff happen here, and we're so grateful to the Pima County School Superintendent for allowing us to host our meeting here as well. And with that, I don't know, would you like a couple of minutes to talk? Half-hour speech? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Not that long. Well, good morning. How's everyone doing? So can we do some improv stuff? Where's Matt? He really hates when I do this stuff. Let's do one of those. What's it called where you all blast something at the same time on Twitter? Sure. Can we do that? Let's do it. Ready? Here we go. I got my phone. I'm not good at this, so I hired Matt. How do you do it, Matt? Guide me through it. We go to Twitter. Okay. It's the bird, right? It's the bird, the white bird. Okay. Okay, let me get. Okay, what's our hashtag for it? I know that.
Well, the ask for a handle is at AZ School PR. We should tag them.
Okay, so okay, let's slow down for the layman's. I've got a hashtag. I think I found my hashtag sign. Okay, and what am I putting there? Help me. Come on. What communication people? What do I do next? School PR. That's it. Okay, great morning. How about the communication makes it all work, or something corny? Let's do something.
Communication makes it all work.
Yeah.
We are going to be grading your tweets.
The spelling errors and
Yeah, that doesn't go well for communication professionals.
At AZ School PR, at Pima School SUP. Yeah. Tweet whatever you want to tweet.
At AZ, what are we doing?
PR.
AZ, what's our? It's
AZ School
AZ PR. That's right.
And then at Pima School Soup.
Which one am I here?
Oh, not that.
Not that one.
AZ School PR.
Oh, AZ School PR. I've got you logged. Oh, there you are. Gotcha. Okay. Wait, you haven't sent it, right? Don't send it yet. That's the whole thing. We're supposed to jam and right. Yeah. What's this called? This. Oh, are we hashtag trending? There's a name for this. There's some sort of name for this. Some sort of name. Are we live? Are we live recording here? Can anyone see me? Hi. Hi. Welcome. We're doing schools. Are we live?
No.
Oh, darn. Darn.
Because of situations like that, no.
So, and then what I always do is then Matt very, very violently takes my phone and goes, "Let me see that before you send that." And then he goes, "Oh no."
Okay, I'll do it. And perfect. Thank you so much. So thank you guys very much. We love to partner and sponsor you guys. We were here last quarter or the quarter before that. I can't remember. But a few things have happened since then. A few things are new. We are new in Arizona. As you can see here, we do websites, teacher websites, mobile apps, and then we also have our LMS and mass notification system. Being new in Arizona, we've only been here for 6 months, but we've been nationwide for years and years. But we already are working with 4 districts. We're about to do the Superintendent Association as well. So we're really excited about the traction that we're getting. I just want to share a few things. Do I use the clicker or just the arrows? Okay. So this is one of the products. I'm just going to show you a couple of products that we have, because at the end of the day, a website's a website, a mobile app's a mobile app, and a mass notification system is a mass notification system. So I'm not going to bore you with those details, especially you guys, because you guys are communications people and you know these products inside and out. But this is one that I love, and we can't get enough of rants and raves about it. It is our admin app. We call it our communications and marketing tool for administrators and communication people. So from here, you can edit your full website, not even have to go in and log into the back end of your system. You're able to create news on the go, push it to social media, push it to different news venues that you may have, whether it be the district website or a campus website. All with one click of a button. No need to go to different places. And you're also able to do the same with your calendar events, not only at the district level, but also at the campus level, and send your mass notification system. One of the stories I always love to share, especially we don't have that problem in southern Arizona, maybe up where Zach is, yes, but a communication director in, I believe it was Oklahoma, shared with us how much he loves this app, because a superintendent called him at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, "We're shutting down, it's a snow day, send out the notification, school's closed." And he literally got his phone, opened the app, set up the notification. Within 2 minutes, it was out, done. He rolled back and went back to sleep. Never even got out of bed. So again, we love it. And then we have Cashless Campus. I can't remember if the last time I was here with you guys, I was telling you about it, that it was coming out. It was in beta. Well, it's full-blown live product. It's selling like crazy. This is a full PCI compliant online store that is integrated to your website. You don't necessarily have to use Gabbert to have it. It is a standalone product, so we're selling it even if you use another web provider as well. But the deep cost accounting on the back end, your business people will love, because the reporting can go from campus, from district, from department, etc. As long as when you enter the things that you're going to sell with the appropriate codes on the back end, you literally, your finance people have to do nothing. One of the great stories that I like to share with this particular product is we were doing a beta, and a district, signed up to do one of the beta testings for the online store. Had no idea what to even put on the online store, because the whole concept was kind of new to them. And one of the people at the district said, "Well, why don't we put those extra t-shirts and basketball shorts and stuff that have been sitting in that closet in a box for 2 years? 2 years. Let's put it up and see what happens." In 36 hours, they sold out. In 36 hours, they sold out. It's not that parents don't want to support the district or the campus. It's not that they don't want to buy things, but we have to meet parents where they're at. We're in the era of Amazon. People do everything online. Gone are the days that, the parent sends a check or $10 for the field trip with a permission slip, etc. You can even submit permission slips through the online store for field trips. So this is one of the products that I absolutely love. And then this I shared a little bit with you last time. It's our brand marketing. Those of you that have gone to NSPA are probably very familiar with David Voss and Associates. He has been gosh, he's been a speaker at NSPRA probably for at least 15 years. We have partnered with him to do our communications that we are offering, the strategic communications to school districts. A lot of districts, especially smaller ones, don't have people like you. And it falls a lot of times on, the shoulders of the superintendent, especially when we're talking about crisis readiness or a communications audit, communications plan. Even you guys use people, whether it be a local marketing firm, to do that type of thing, to do a communications plan and audit, especially if you're coming up on a bond or referendum. Well, using a firm like David Voss and Associates that is strictly K-12 and has been doing it for 25 years and is an NSPRA Pro, his products are actually sold on the NSPRA homepage, can benefit you tremendously, especially if you're coming up to a bond or a referendum. We're also doing drone and video footage. We will send out our crew to your district. We'll put together this beautiful, beautiful video so that you can have that splashy video on your homepage, because again, we're in the era of school choice. So it's more imperative now than ever to really brand your district appropriately. So again, thank you very much. I can't wait to see you guys in the summer, and I hope you guys have a wonderful meeting. Thank you. One more thing. I always do a raffle, and I am so sorry. I left my new business cards, that's why you don't have them, and the raffle and a little short survey that I was going to give you on my desk. So I will probably be emailing the survey, and I don't know, I'll do a question or something fun, and I'll do the raffle and email whoever wins.
Just gonna do a couple quick housekeeping. Yeah. All right, just a couple housekeeping things before we get started. Let's get in the camera there. So restrooms are right down the hall to the left. If you parked in either the garages that we sent, one right behind or run by the YMCA, then we can validate after the meeting downstairs. Just make sure that once you get it validated that I think it's 20 minutes you have to leave. So if you're going to eat or something, come back and we'll validate after you're done. Other than that, anything else, Zach? I think we're good. Oh, we did want to go around and do some introductions. There's some new faces here, so just quick who you are and what organization or district. You want to start, Christy?
Sure. Hi, I'm Christy Silverstein from Excelsior, Arizona. I'm also on the executive board of ASPRA, the treasurer. So I'll be presenting a little bit later about our fall. Good to be here.
Good. Hi, I'm Kim Parkinson. I'm the assistant superintendent in the Florida School District.
I'm Claire Place, and I'm the director of communications for Tanquary School District.
And I'm Tamara Crawley, director of public relations with the Florida School District.
I'm Michael Cadares, the content marketing manager for the Pima County JTED.
And I'm Greg Ganna, director of public relations, Pima JTED.
Good morning, my name is Matt Malone. I'm with Pima County Office of Emergency Management. I'm the community outreach coordinator.
Sonia Valencia with Sunnyside Unified School District.
Michelle Valenzuela, Communications Director for AMPI Public Schools.
Cynthia Washington, web and digital media specialist for AFI Public Schools.
Julie Barbaric, I'm the Director of Alumni and Community Relations for Catalina Foothills School District.
Stephanie Ingersoll, coordinator of public relations and marketing for Queen Creek Unified School District.
Richard Franco, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Phoenix Union High School District.
Leslie Lenhart, Director of Communications for Tucson Unified School District.
Carla Escamilla, senior coordinator and public relations for
Marisela Felix, director of public information for the Sunnyside School District.
And Patricia Roberts with Gavrick Communications.
Michelle Reese, public relations for the Higley Unified School District.
Selena?
Hi, I'm Selena Yamas. I'm the Southern Arizona Manager for Expect More Arizona.
Awesome. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Next up, we're going to introduce Mr. Ben. I just want to take a second to say how grateful I am to you for being here. We kind of pieced it together last minute, and he made it work in his schedule, and we're just excited to have Mr. Ben. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks, everybody. So I want to start by saying that I'm really happy that you are sort of in a circular configuration. That's making me feel very at home, like I'm at circle time in my classroom. To further help me out, if one of you could just randomly shout that you need to go to the bathroom, that would make me feel a lot more comfortable. If one of you actually wants to just go to the bathroom where you're sitting, that would make me feel like it's actually a school day. I don't suggest that any of you randomly crawl under the table and try to climb like on my shoulders, which sometimes happen, but that would really make me feel right at home. But, you know, it's up to you. Okay, my name is Ben Collinsworth. I am a preschool teacher at Emily Mestre Early Learning Center, which is in the Flowing Wells School District under the amazing leadership of Dr. Kim Parkinson. The district is, not just my school. I'm also a 2020 Ambassador for Excellence with the Arizona Educational Foundation, which does mean, like Matt said in the slide, that I was one of the top 5 finalists for Teacher of the Year, but we like to say Ambassador for Excellence because it's more diplomatic and it has the word excellence in it. I'm going to do 3 main things today, and the first thing is to go over just a few key words and make sure we're all on the same page when we're talking about early childhood and things like that. The second thing is to tell you a few stories from my classroom to maybe give you some insight and some guidance and as far as how you can center those sort of things in the jobs that you do. And then the third thing is to threaten you within an inch of your life and recruit you into my cult. I mean my community. And I'm really excited about each one. So the first thing is just to go over some terms. So as a warm-up to this exercise, I would like you to please talk to your neighbor on each side about the difference between a chicken, a hen, and a rooster. Really quick, 2 seconds. What is the difference between a chicken, a hen, and a rooster? All right, and back to the middle in 3, 2, 1, and 0. Who has a really good answer for this question? Who thinks they know exactly what the difference is? Oh, y'all have not been at preschool for a long time. Kim is laughing because she thinks. Yes, Stephanie. Yes, we are back to the circle in 2, 1, 0. A lot of my friends right now are making try again choices. And if hi, we're all done. We're back. Thanks. Okay, so Stephanie raised her hand and she's going to tell us the exact difference between a chicken, a hen, and a rooster. Ready, set, go.
I do not know if this is the exact difference, but it came from my shoulder partner,
Okay.
Franco, so this is not mine.
Okay.
So just letting you know.
This is even better. You're telling me what your partner told you. Perfect.
The hen and the chicken and the rooster, they're all chickens.
Yes.
The rooster is the male.
Right. Yes, everything's a chicken. The rooster is the male. The chicken is the female. I'm sorry, the hen is the female. Thank you. Okay. Right. Thank you, Franco. Okay. Ready? We're gonna do another one. Talk to the same 2 people about the difference between a pig, a boar, and a hog. Ready, set, go. It's hard, right? Okay. There's a lot more talking and a lot less knowing going on. All right, so a boar, a pig, and a hog, right? Let's reconvene in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Does anybody on this equator have an answer, an idea? A hypothesis? Anybody over here? Yes, what's your idea? Oh yeah, I don't know the answer. I don't know. Maybe that sounds very good. They're all part of the swine family. So I don't know what that means. I was really hoping that some of you would know the answer. You could if you wanted to. You could eat anything if you really believe in yourself. So that was a trick. I don't know the answer. Probably some book does. Okay, so the last one. Talk to the same group of people about the difference between early childhood education, preschool, and pre-kindergarten. Alrighty, and we will compare some answers in 5, 4. We'll all turn back into the circle in 3, 2, 1, 0. Does anybody have what they feel like is a really succinct answer, either from themselves or somebody in their group that they were talking to? Oh, everyone's so scared. Okay, I'll admit I do have an answer for this one, which is good. I heard a little bit of talking over here. What was your answer?
So, ideally, they would all mean the same thing. But
Okay.
I think there's perceptions that a preschool is more sort of play-based, where pre-K is a precursor to kinder.
Okay.
Early learning can somewhat be convoluted with daycare or childcare.
Right.
Is it what
So there are like connotative differences between those terms, which really are the same thing. Okay, I totally agree with that. Anybody else? Stephanie?
So
Okay.
only because I have a kid about to start kindergarten
Mhm.
and I've been going through this process. Is early childhood 0 to 5?
Okay.
And preschool 3 to 4?
Yeah.
And pre-K 4 to 5?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. I like that definition. The way that I talk about it to people who ask me is that when you say early childhood education, you're referencing the developmental stage of human beings, which lasts from birth to age 8. So if you're talking about early childhood education, you're actually talking about the preschool that I do, and you're also talking about kindergarten, you're also talking about first grade, and you're also talking about second grade. So that is not to say that when most people say early childhood education, they're not just referencing preschool or 0 to 5. They mostly are. I've done it probably this morning. Preschool is education, whether it's formal or informal or daycare, that takes place within that 0 to 5. Before, 0 to 5. So that includes infancy. If you bring your child to an infant or toddler care or teaching program, that's preschool as well. If you bring your child to my school, that's preschool as well, because my students are 3, 4, and 5. If they start at my school with an IEP, they can start when they're 2 years and 9 months. So that's preschool. Pre-kindergarten is specifically that year where they're gaining skills targeted at their kindergarten year. So usually 4 or 5, like Stephanie said. Okay, does that make a little more sense? Make those differences clear? Okay, I just like to smooth over those differences when I'm talking to people, just to make sure we all understand what we're talking about. And if I use one term when I mean the other, please stop me and correct me or ask for clarification, and hopefully that'll help you in your work when you're discussing the early childhood or the preschool or the pre-kindergarten programs in your districts or your organizations. Now I want to tell you some stories. I have a story about for 3 different kiddos that have gone through my classroom. And what I'd like you to do while you're listening to each story is think about which of these stories would you most likely center in some sort of promotion or marketing that you're doing for your organization or for your district, for whatever reason. And we can talk about the reasons in a second. So the first story is about a kiddo from my class named Marcus. And obviously I've changed everybody's name, so nice try. Marcus was one of those kids that came to our school when he was 2 years and 9 months old because he had an individualized education plan, an IEP for special education. He was significantly delayed in his cognitive ability, his language ability, and his social emotional development. He came to us when he was almost 3 years old, but he really had the mindset, the outlook, and the physicality of a 1-year-old or a 1.5-year-old. The year after that, 2 weeks after he started at our school, he was removed from the care of his parents because of some substance abuse issues that were happening with them, and put into the foster care of a relative. And the next year, he joined my class, and he was in my class for the 2 years after that. School was really hard for Marcus. Life was really hard for Marcus. Making friends was really hard for Marcus. Listening to his preschool teacher was really hard for Marcus. And the one thing that helped him step over those boundaries was a process that we did in my classroom called Read Aloud, which is when we take a book that we've read aloud, we have a read aloud, and then a little while after that, we bring the book to life. We basically do a short reader's theater or a little mini play out of it. This comes from my theater performance background that I like to bring into the classroom. So students get to volunteer for characters. They get to play the characters in the book. We sometimes put on small costumes. We sometimes make small sets, or sometimes we just do it like real quick and dirty. And we had this one book that we had read for a couple weeks. It's called Mudkin by Stephen Gammell. And the main character in the book is this little sort of creature, and he's made out of mud by this little girl, and she uses her imagination to bring him to life. And the really cool thing about the book is that whenever Mudkin speaks, the words that he says are just illustrations of like blobs of mud, sort of in the shape of letters and sort of in the shape of words, but not really. It's just sort of like a splash of mud across the page. So for the 2 weeks that I was reading the book out loud, I kind of made little like sounds, like my mouth was full of mud, like blah, 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 like that, and it was sort of a hit in the class. But Marcus loved it the most, and so when we were going to do a read aloud, he was the first one to raise his hand when I said, "Who wants to play Mudkin?" So I was like, "Yeah, Marcus is like volunteering for something. Like Marcus, that proves that he's paying attention. He wants to do something." So I asked him to be Mudkin in the story, and when it was his turn, he mimicked what I had done to make the Mudkin voice. But the other thing was that he like changed the shape of his body, and he sort of like made himself look like he was this mud character, and he changed like the tone of his voice, and it was really the first time that he showed me that he had been paying attention to something that took place as part of a formal lesson. And he didn't just show it to me, he showed it to his peers, and they all kind of, they stood up and clapped for him, which is a really big deal. Like, no one has ever stood up and clapped. I didn't know that preschool kids knew what a standing ovation was, but they proved that he did. And did all of his other challenges go away after that day? Of course not, but it was the beginning of his ability to engage with stories and to engage with literature, and also really to be seen by his peers. And so it absolutely was a turning point for Marcus. So that's Marcus's story. And my second story is about a friend of mine named Junior. Junior was in my class my very first year as a teacher. And as a first-year teacher, Junior is exactly the kind of kid that you want to come into your class, because he came to meet the teacher, and I had never seen this kid before in my life, and he walked right up to me and said, "Hi, Mr. Ben, my name is Junior, and I really like school." I was like, oh, phew. Like, I don't have to do anything with this kid. I don't have to like work with him super hard. Our school is built on a model of inclusion, which is that half of our kids have IEPs, kind of like Marcus, or somewhere in between, and then half of our kids are what we call behavior models or peer models, and Junior was absolutely a peer model. My only job with Junior was to not screw it up, right? Like he was ready, and he was on his way. I'm happy to say that I did not screw it up, and in fact, one thing that I learned really quickly from Junior was that he loved books, and he loved pretending to read, and he was really on this personal mission of learning to read by himself. And one of the things that he did to learn to read was he found one book that I had brought from home into the school library. It's called Where is the Green Sheep? And Where is the Green Sheep is a very repetitive story. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it before. It's by Mem Fox, and it's like, here is the red sheep, and here is the blue sheep, here is the one sheep, and here's the two sheep. I don't know if that's the exact word, but where is the green sheep? And it has a sort of like simple rhyme like that, and then every fourth verse it says, but where is the green sheep? And he did this really cool thing that preschoolers do, which is he memorized that book. He looked at the pictures, he knew exactly what word was going to come. Every time that it was time for student-selected reading, every day, he picked Where is the Green Sheep, and he found a new adult or a new peer to impress with his magical ability to, to read the book. That's when I decided that my new policy was going to be that anytime a student learned to read or read a book all by him or herself, they got to keep that book forever. I inscribed it to him. I said, this is the very first book that you were able to read all by yourself. Please enjoy, and I can't wait to see what you do in your life. And I sent it home in his backpack. I kept in touch with him, with his family a little bit. It happened that during that year, I had a student teacher, and eventually, that student teacher became a second grade teacher in our school district. And it also happened that Junior joined her second grade class when he was ready to be in second grade. He came on the first day of second grade, I found out from her later, with his copy of Where is the Green Sheep in his backpack. Right? Yeah, this is like the best story. He said to her, I brought this book to keep in my desk in case there's ever show and tell, because the one thing that I really want to show my friends is the very first book that I was ever able to read. Like, stop it, right? So, that year, it was February. It was Love of Reading Month. I got to go to her classroom to read to Junior and to all of his friends. And of course, I brought another copy of Where is the Green Sheep, and we shared it with all his friends. And that was a really cool moment for both of us. So that's Junior's story. The third story is about Carla. Carla was born with a unilateral hearing loss, meaning on one side, on one ear, she could not hear at all. Obviously, this affected her communication. She spoke in either very small words or very small sounds. It meant that she had not just me as a classroom teacher, but also a teacher from the Arizona School for the Deaf and Blind that came to work with her individually and also with me as a classroom teacher, and worked with basically everybody in our class and set up equipment in our classroom. She gave me a microphone to wear around my neck and sometimes a headset, and I got to pretend that I was Britney Spears. Not during class, just like after everybody left and I locked it up. But Carla was so kind and so sweet, but learning was made difficult for her just because of this one thing that had happened when she was born, just because of this one quality that she had. But the chance that she had to be in a preschool classroom, the chance that she had to have access to this other teacher that helped her with her hearing loss through my classroom, up into kindergarten, up into first grade, up into second grade, up into third grade, where I saw her again at our district board meeting, where we every school gets to bring what we call a building blocks of character student the teacher that nominated them is holding them up as a great example of citizenship in the classroom and in the school. I happened to be bringing a student that month, and Carla happened to be the student from her school that month. So we were reunited, and then in that meeting, and I got to talk to her and her mom and her teacher all about the amazing work and the citizenship that she had sort of held up since leaving my classroom. So those are my three main stories, and I'd like you now to turn to that same group of people, your three best friends at this meeting, and talk about which of the stories would you most likely want to center in some sort of post or blast or story that you share as part of your work, and why. And if you want to like rank them, I think this one, just get ready to have like a main reason why, and we'll talk about it. And I'll tell you that there are no correct answers. There are no incorrect answers. Ready, set, go. Okay, I think we might have had enough time. So let's take our 5 and come back. Oh, no, I'm good. Let's take our 5 and come back in 4, 3, joining the circle again in 2, just wrapping up your thought. We'll have a chance to share in 1, 0. Okay, so let's start with Marcus's story. Marcus was the first story with Mudkin. Did anybody pick Marcus's story as the number one, like I really want to share that the most of all? Okay, can you tell us why?
I just think it was like a really cool story. I think you could be really visual with it. And I think even if Marcus is now in 2nd grade, 4th grade, or whatever, you could go back to your classroom, film kids then in preschool or and have Marcus sharing his story of how this was kind of his first breakthrough moment.
Okay.
So I just think,
Yeah. So I heard you, Cynthia. Thanks, Cynthia. I heard you talk about how it's really visual. Like there's stuff happening, and there's like you can sort of like pinpoint that exact lesson, and it's easy to sort of describe. Is that what you mean? And I like the idea about finding Marcus wherever he may be, and getting a follow up and getting sort of his perspective of that story. And that reminds me of my friend Jesse. Jesse works with the Mini Time Machine Museum, which is a museum of miniatures here in Tucson. I used to work there with Jesse, and I found out while I was in school, getting my early childhood endorsement, that Jesse had been part of this really cool thing called the Perry Preschool Project when he lived in Michigan. Does anybody know about the Perry Preschool Project? So the Perry Preschool Project started in the 60s, I think in 62, and they were researchers, and they said, we are going to track different groups at this preschool and are in this area, and one group is going to be kids that got this really great access to preschool, and it was the 60s, so like preschool was kind of a big deal. And this other group is kids of the same socioeconomic status who didn't get that preschool access, and we're going to track them throughout their lives. And my friend Jesse told me all about how he would get letters from the researchers at every stage in his life. He said, I went to I was in the armed forces, I was overseas, and they sent me letters, like they tracked me down, and like basically got anecdotal evidence from him of what his life was like, what his ability to make choices throughout life was like. So it's sort of a landmark research case pointing to the fact that, hey, surprise, early interventions and early education really like does set people up for a better shot at life, a better shot at status and success throughout life. So thank you, Cynthia, for reminding me that. So how about number 2, Junior story? Anybody want to center that? The very first, top of my list, Junior story. Yes, can you tell us why?
We said we would love that because it shows what an important moment that was years later.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows the importance of longevity over time.
Yeah.
And it's all book centered, and I think it's a very easy story for everybody to relate to.
Yeah.
Every parent could relate to, wow, that first time my child read a book and how important that was, and that was still a meaningful moment to this child years later in second grade.
Cool. Thank you. So again, I hear the idea of longevity. Oh, this is something that we can point back to the beginning, or sort of the nexus for something. Okay. How about Carla's story? Yeah, someone in the back. Who wants to share about what they thought was so cool about Carla's story, or why they'd want to share it?
I think people are attracted to feel-good stories, and
Mhm.
I think that's definitely a feel-good story.
Yeah, Carla. I mean, all 3 of these do, but Carla's definitely has that human element that really sort of like tugs at you. And of course, I didn't show her to you, but if you met her, you would probably pick her first because. So that's just to show that there are things going on in preschool classrooms and early childhood classrooms that do carry that really, really significant emotional weight. Besides Junior being able to read that book, notice I didn't share any stories about, well, here's a story about somebody that knew all his shapes, and here's a story about somebody that learned to count to 25. Like, those are good things, and that's part of what we're aiming for, but a lot of the stories that are really working to pull people into what's so important about the work that we're doing is that human element, that emotional element, that social emotional element, which is a huge part of not only why I got into teaching the grade level that I teach, but it's a huge part of what all of us in the field, in the profession, are trying to isolate as our unique quality. We are so dedicated to developing young children's social and emotional strength. We're so committed to that growth because, especially in that area of pre-kindergarten, that's what we want them to go to kindergarten with. We want them to be ready to be sort of citizens of even a really small community, that kindergarten classroom. So that's the importance of the work to me, and I thank you for sharing your ideas and your thoughts. Yes, Dr. Parkinson.
I just have to brag about Ben for just a minute because we talked about this a little bit, but that's your specialty, is building relationships. And what I love about those 3 stories is it's 3 kids that are on completely opposite, like if you look at Marcus and Junior, opposite ends of And the fact that Ben was able to build relationships with all these different kids, like meaningful relationships that last years later.
Yeah.
That's the work that you're doing. That is so powerful.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. Oh, you're clapping because you forgot about my third thing I was going to do. Okay. So I have you as an audience, and I know that you all are in some major way in control of the way that schools and educators are promoted and marketed to masses. And I want to let you know from this day forward, actually it was before today, the term K-12 is over. Everybody, it's done. I killed it, and I stepped on it, and I did a little dance. Just kidding. I love K-12. It's so fun to say. It trips off your tongue. But when you say K-12, you're doing that to abbreviate the scope of public education, from the beginning of it to the end of it. And if you're using K-12 to abbreviate that scope, you're leaving something off. And the part that you're leaving off is me, and I'm so cute. You don't, you guys, I'm beautiful, and you don't want to leave me out of your story. You don't want to leave my colleagues out. You don't want to leave out the kids that we just talked about. A lot of us think about when we were in school, whether we started in a preschool or whether we started in a kindergarten, and the truth is, the things that we experienced when we were in kindergarten, in that public school setting, are what my preschool students are now experiencing. And the things that we experienced, I just made us all the same age, is that cool? The things that we experienced in first grade are what actually kindergartners are experiencing now. So everything has sort of elevated. So I'm urging all of you for yourselves, I know you're already doing it, but to recruit you into my cult or my community. Talk to the people that you work with, talk to the organizations that you are part of and that you're affiliated with, and speak up on my behalf, speak up on behalf of the preschool teachers in your school district. If you see something going on, like a contest, an award, a promotion, and it specifically is open to K-12, be brave enough to ask why. If you are putting something out that's open to K-12, be brave enough to ask yourself why. Is there any reason that this couldn't be open to preschool students or that this couldn't be open to preschool teachers? I'm now affiliated with AEF, the Arizona Educational Foundation, because I applied for Teacher of the Year because I was able to. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to. 3 years ago, I wasn't able to. So AEF just recently opened up that honor, or the ability to achieve that honor, to preschool teachers. So my students and I are getting ready to participate in SARCEF's science fair. So that's another thing that has been open to preschool teachers for a little while. Yeah, isn't that cool? That's gonna bring me to my closing thought, which I was instructed to give you all, which is please, please, please have your teachers and administrators nominate teachers for Arizona Teacher of the Year. The AEF is a nonprofit foundation, and their whole purpose is to sort of promote what teachers are doing, and it really helps them to find the best teachers if they're being nominated. And teachers can nominate themselves, so please encourage your teachers to nominate themselves. Nominations are open now for the 2021 Teacher of the Year. So with that, I want to say thanks again for having me, and thanks for all of your hard work in discussing, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Mr. Ben. He did. Oh, yes.
Yeah, could I just say something? I just met Mr. Ben today, and I'm now a member of his cult.
One of us. One of us.
Just
you send it to us, we'll make sure to get it out on the listserv so everybody has access to that. So thank you. Yeah.
And it's a tremendous documentary. I've seen it, so I do encourage everybody to take the chance to see it for free. And I took a photo of your sign-in sheet, so if I see K-12 from any of you anywhere.
Okay. So this is also a really good reminder that early childhood education isn't, it's not just about the programming, it's not just about the people. This is the first opportunity for families to come into our district and to understand what's going on and what those pathways for opportunities are. So early childhood education is where we build the trust and the foundation with our communities. And so how we market those things, sometimes it's always been kind of pushed to the side. I mean, we're redoing all of our early childhood education materials for that same reason. It doesn't get the attention of athletics and all those types of things, but that's where charters and private schools are really making their bones. So it's something to think about. So at this time, I'm going to hand it off to Michelle. Michelle, do we need like how are people feeling? Do we need a couple-minute break or?
They do have another meeting.
Oh, they have another meeting. Okay, well, perfect. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Michelle then.
We're good. Okay, so I will let our next speakers share a little bit about themselves with one exception. So I have known Brett Fair, I think, at least a decade, probably more. And a little tidbit about this. So Brett was my editor at the East Valley Tribune the day I turned in my resignation because I was becoming a public information officer for the Higley School District. And he looked at me, how dare you? But shortly thereafter, he left and became the University of Arizona, go Wildcats, student publication advisor. So I was thrilled that my alumni organization was going to be in very good hands. And he is here with Arizona Daily Star reporter Jasmine Demers. And I will let them tell a little bit about themselves. And the microphone's for recording.
Awesome.
The camera is right in the middle, so if you could kind of stand in the middle, that'd be
In the middle, meaning right there. Is it facing this way? Okay. Thank you all for having us. I hope it's okay that we bring some journalism ideology to the conversation. I recognize that probably a good chunk of this room are former journalists who have taken your communication skills to a completely different realm. So I applaud that and appreciate it. My name is Brett Fair, as Michelle said. I'm the Director of Student Media here in Tucson at U of A, and that includes the department that oversees the Daily Wildcat student newspaper, Camp Student Radio, and UATV3. Funny, found out that I looked at Matt and I'm like, I know you, and then I saw his name and I realized Matt and I used to work together at the student radio station at U of A and actually used to call basketball games together, and we probably haven't seen each other in like 15 years, so kind of fun. Our department includes 200 some odd students from all walks of life on campus and different backgrounds and majors. We do have quite a few journalism majors, but really who are experiencing their college days and coming to find themselves wanting to do something that has impact, and so they come work in our department. Jasmine was one of those students I was lucky enough to get to work with, and now she's killing it in the professional world. But one of the really interesting parts of working in student media is seeing the students that actually leave and take those communication skills and the ability to interact, problem solve, troubleshooting, interpersonal relationship development, and go off and do things that aren't even journalism related or that are in other forms of communication. So as Michelle said, my background, I was a journalist up in the Phoenix area for about a decade before getting to come back here, which is also where I went to school. So I'll stop talking because I talk a lot.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Demers. I graduated from UA with my master's in journalism this last May, and I've been working at the Arizona Daily Star ever since. I'm a county reporter, so I cover local government, but I did cover science before that point. And I was the editor for the Wildcat, which was an incredible experience for me. I do actually have some PR marketing experience also. So after I graduated with my bachelor's in communication, I went on to work for a marketing firm or a public relations agency in Solana Beach, California, which was also a really great experience. So, but I have kind of shown a great interest in what we're going to be talking about today, which is solutions journalism, and I've done a lot of research about it. And so we're just going to talk to you about how you can apply it to your work. So.
Well, like Jasmine said, I mean, it's referenced as solutions journalism, but what it really is solution storytelling. You know, when Michelle was talking to me about an idea of bringing some storytelling ideas to the table to share with all of you, and what we're teaching at U of A in our school, and what is being taught at the Cronkite School at ASU and across the country, this is actually really one of the hot button things. And so even though it says solutions journalism, it's really storytelling in a different way. And so I was thinking about somebody that I knew in terms of Jasmine that had experience with this, and it's funny, we were putting together ideas, and all of a sudden she said, you know, I have a presentation I've done on this, and we looked at it, and it kind of fits perfectly. So even though it says journalism, the concepts are perfect. So I'm going to hand it off to her to kind of get us started, and then I'll chime in a little bit in certain areas. But
Okay. So just to let you know, kind of the concept behind solutions journalism, storytelling, was that, you know, people were looking at the media, journalists were looking at the media and thinking critically about how they could change the way that they were doing storytelling. Because when you look at a lot of polls that readers take to let media companies know how they're doing, a lot of the feedback was, you know, we're seeing so much negativity, like it's almost to the point where we don't want to read this because it's so negative all the time, and it kind of turns people off from wanting to be involved and be informed, which is obviously a huge issue. So solutions journalism kind of came about with that idea in mind, and wanting people to read stories where they identified an issue but also laid out solutions to that issue and talked about things that people in the community were doing to try and solve some of these major type of issues. So solutions journalism it can be character driven, but it focuses on in-depth responses to a problem, and how those responses work in meaningful detail. It also focuses on effectiveness, not good intentions, and presents available evidence of results. It also discusses the limitations of the approach, and then it seeks to provide insight that others can use. So this is, I mean, it's kind of hard to think about how this might apply to your work, but we're going to kind of get into that later. So just think broadly about these kind of concepts. So how do you know it's solutions journalism? Does the story explain the causes of a social problem? Does the story present an associated response to that problem? Does the story get into the problem solving and how to details of implementation? Is the problem solving process central to the narrative? Does the story present evidence of results linked to the response? Does the story explain the limitations of the response? Does the story convey an insight or teachable lessons? Does the story avoid reading like a puff piece? Does the story draw on sources who have a ground level understanding? Does the story give greater attention to the response than to the leader, innovator, or do-gooder? So this next part, I gave you just a brief overview of what solutions journalism is, and we're going to talk more about that later. But I just wanted to really go over this part a little bit more in depth, because I think the value in what solutions journalism brings and the impact is really the important part of this. So the Solutions Journalism Network is, first of all, is a really great resource, and I know, again, that's the word journalism, but I mean, that's always a resource for anybody who's working in storytelling at all. And so I encourage you to go to their website and learn more about this kind of technique.
And we'll share this, and I've got a list of links that we'll also be able to share that can be passed around and you guys can dive in. They actually have a really incredible education storytelling toolkit on there that, again, is meant for the journalism side of the discussion, but that, like Jasmine said, will actually serve all of the pretty well too.
So, but these solutions-based stories, have been proven to increase engagement across the board for people who are reading these stories, which is the most important part. So as far as them wanting to learn more, they're definitely more likely to want to learn more about the issue if they're reading a solutions-based story versus just a traditional story. As far as wanting to get involved in the issue, donate to the issue, talk with others about the issue, it's also high across the board. Sharing on social media, reading more articles from that same author, reading more articles from the same newspaper or organization, reading more articles on the issue in general, again, that's higher across the board. And then their knowledge increases after reading solutions-based stories. They feel better informed about the issue. Their interest in the issue has increased. And they feel the article is different from a typical news article. They feel inspired after reading the article. So these are all kind of things that we want when we're writing stories, right? We want people to pay attention to them. We want people to feel a sense of hope. We want them to feel like their questions have been answered. And that's where these kind of stories really come in. So this was just something that I kind of included in this story because, I mean, every storytelling technique obviously still has issues. And so I wanted to just share these comments with you that people kind of gave feedback on. So